Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Jake Whip and I make tutorials for Davinci Resolve. If that's something that you are interested in, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on a new video that I upload. In today's video, we're going to be creating this letter flicker effect inside of the Fusion page. This is a great technique to use in motion graphics and any title design. If you guys want to get today's project file as well as the project files from all of my other tutorials, you can do so at the link down below on my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you guys skip to the end of the video, you can see how easy it is to just import these templates. Okay, but let's get into creating this effect. So first up, what we need to do is get a Fusion composition onto our timeline. So let's come up to my effects library here and grab the Fusion composition and drag it down onto my timeline. Then with my playhead above the Fusion composition, I can go over into the Fusion page. Inside of Fusion, I will drag down a text node for my toolbar and connect this up into the media out. Next, I can add my text into the text box. So I'm just going to do letter flicker. And now I'll go through and change my font. So I'm going to do Franklin Gothic Heavy. I will change the size, bring it up a little bit, and then change the spacing. So I'll just add a little bit of spacing, remove some there, until I get what I want. Next, I'm going to move over to the shading tab, and I'm going to set the color to whatever color I want the text to be. So I'm going to do a light blue. Let's do something like that for now. You can always come back and change this later on. Then I'll come up to the select element and I'll go to number 2 and I will enable this. Now we have this red outline appearing around our text. What we want to do is come and adjust the color and set this to be white. Now you can have whatever color you want, but that's what I want. Now if I zoom in a little bit, we want to adjust the thickness to whatever size that we want. And I'm going to change the join style so that it's a sharp point, okay? And I'm also going to check outside only. Otherwise you'll run into some problems later on. Now that I have my outline on my text, I'm going to go back to the text tab and I'm going to just adjust some of the spacing here, just so it looks a little bit better. There we go. Now we're going to start creating the actual flicker effect. So coming out of my text node, I'm going to right click, do edit controls, and I can add a new control. I'm going to be calling it random. I will come down to the page and I will select the text page. I'll set a range of 0 to 1 and I will change it to a slider control. Once all that's set, I will hit OK. And now if we scroll down to the bottom of my inspector, we can see we have this new control here that isn't linked to anything. We'll right click on this and then do modify width and then do the shake, okay? And if we come to modifiers, we can set the smoothness to 10, that's default. And I'm going to be setting the minimum to 0.6. Now using the smoothness slider and the minimum, that is what you're going to be using to change the speed of your flicker effect later on. So to get back to that, you just have to click on the text node, and then come over to the modifiers tab and you'll see the shake on text 1 random. So if we come back to the tools, we can look at this random slider and it will be changing just slowly between values between 0.6 and 1, the values that we set. This is going to drive the flicker effect. So what we want to do is come up to the top here, right click on the text and do follower. Now going back over to the modifiers tab, we can come to the shading tab in the follower and then add a keyframe on opacity. The reason that we have to add a keyframe is because for anything in the follower tab to affect the actual text, it needs to have a keyframe on it. Otherwise, if I don't have a keyframe and I adjust the opacity, nothing happens. But as soon as I add a keyframe, it will actually adjust the opacity. So now we're going to right click on the opacity and do expression. And now we're going to type in the expression if text1.random, so that is addressing the control that we added, text1.random. So if text1.random is greater than 0.7, it is going to be equal to 0, otherwise it is equal to 1, then closing parentheses. So whenever it's less than 7, it'll make the opacity equal to 0, but whenever it's above that, it'll be equal to 1. So right now, it never goes below 0.7. So what we can do is come to the shake and just reseat it until there's a time where it does actually flicker, and you can see that that happens. So before we go through and adjust the speed and the minimum so that flickers more or less, we're going to come back to the follower down here, and we'll go over to the timing, and we'll change the order to completely random, and then we'll set a 25 frame delay. So now when it actually does flicker, it'll just flicker random letters and it'll have 25 frames in between each flicker. Now that we have that on, we can come back to the random and we can adjust the minimum and the speed and whatnot. And then with that, it'll flicker more or less. So now this is the letter flicker effect that I have. Again, you guys can go through it and adjust all these controls to change how the speed of yours is, but this looks pretty good for my situation. Now I want to make it so that the letters just kind of fade off once they actually disappear. To do that, we're going to be using a plugin called Echo. Now, Echo is available for free on the Reactor plugin. To install that, there's a link down below to the link, and all you have to do is drag that right into Fusion, and it will automatically install it. Once it's inside of Fusion, if you want to access it, you have to come up to Workspace, go down to Scripts, Reactor, and then do Open Reactor. That might take a second to update because it has to download all of the new plugins that it has, but once it is open, you can just come up here and search Echo, and now as you can see we have the Echo plugin here, and to install it, you just simply have to check this box. Now for me it's already installed, but if you were to install it brand new, you'd have to restart Davinci Resolve for it to appear. Once you've restarted Davinci Resolve, we can do Shift Space and type Echo, and then pressing Enter on your keyboard, it will add in the Echo node. So pretty much what this node will do is create an offset copy of our image. We're going to come up here and set the echo frames to be 7, so it'll create 7 copies. Then we'll set the echo gain to be equal to 0, and we'll set the gain gamma to be 1.575, okay? So now when we hit play, as you can see the letters will kind of just fade off just a little bit. And you can play around with all those settings in the Echo node, adding a longer trail, less fade off, and so on. So now the letter flicker effect is completely done. Now we want to create a cool background to go along with it because by itself this doesn't really look that good. So creating motion graphic backgrounds can be difficult and take up a lot of time, especially if you're creating a lot of them. That's why I created the MotionEssentials plugin. The MotionEssentials plugin allows you to add accents, bursts, and backgrounds in just a few clicks. There is going to be a huge update coming to MotionEssentials very soon, so make sure you guys stay subscribed so you don't miss out on that. But if you do want to pick it up right now, it already has a bunch of awesome assets in it, and you will get a free upgrade to the new version. If you want to learn more about it, you can check the link down below and use the code on the screen for 10% off when purchasing. The background that I'm going to be creating today is going to be included in the next version of MotionEssentials. But let's get started making it ourselves. So I'm just going to take my text in Echo and drag it up here just a little bit, and then I'll grab a background node and merge this up like that, and use Ctrl-T to switch the inputs on the merge node. In the background node, I'll come into the color and just set it to a very dark gray, about there. And then I'm going to add in 3 nodes. I'm going to add in the S ellipse, the S grid, and then the S render. I'm going to merge this on top of the background node, and now we can start adjusting its parameters. Inside of the S ellipse, I'm going to right click on the height, do expression, and connect this to the width. I'll set this to be 0.003, and this will create just a bunch of little dots around our image. Next up under the grid, I'm going to connect the grid cells Y to the grid cells X, and the Y offset to the X offset. For the grid cells, I'll set this to 20, so that'll make 20 copies, and the X offset, I'm going to be typing in 0.005. And the X offset, I'm going to be typing 0.05. Next up, after the render, I'm going to add a displace node, and then I'm going to add a fast noise node coming into the displace node. I can view the fast noise node off to the side, and I'll go through and adjust its parameters. I'm going to set the detail to 1.18, I'm going to set the contrast to 2.02, I'm going to set the brightness to -0.03, I'm going to set the scale to 3.78, and then finally I'm going to set the seethe rate to 0.142. Now these are the settings that I went through and picked, and I like these the best, but you can change these to whatever you want. And then if we go into the displace node, we can set the refraction strength to 0.22. Now if you play it, we just have the little dots look like they're almost bouncing around. And for a few final touches, we'll just drag this up here, come into the ellipse and set the style color to be the same as the text. We can just use that with the eyedropper. And after the displace, add a soft glow. I'll bring up the glow size a little bit and then the glow amount. So we have something like that right there. And finally, I will add in an ellipse node, connect this into the merge 2 as a mask. I'm going to invert it, bring the soft edge up to 0.2, and then adjust the width and height so that it fits around the text box. So we have something like that. So if you want to download this project file so you don't have to make it yourself, you can do so at the link down below by becoming a member on my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you guys do end up doing that, it's super easy to import, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So starting on the edit page, we're going to grab a brand new Fusion composition and we will head over to that. Then inside of Fusion, what I can do is drag the file that I downloaded. It should be called flickertext.setting, and I will just drag this right into Fusion. And now it will import all of my nodes, and I can connect this up into the media out. And there we go, it works. All you need to make sure is that you have the same font that I use, which would be the Franklin Gothic Heavy, alright? Or you can just go through and change that. And you need to make sure that you have the Echo plugin installed, which I talked about earlier in the video. But if you have those two things, everything should work perfectly. Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on any new videos. If you guys have any questions or suggestions for future videos, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time for another video.